In 1630s, Holland, a single flower bulb could cost more than a house on a canal. Then, in a matter of weeks, it cost less than the bulb's own weight in onions. Last time I told you about the pattern underneath every crowd that's ever run off a cliff. Tonight I'm going to show you the first time it happened with money. A real place, a real flower, and a whole country that briefly lost its mind together. Amsterdam, the 1630s. The Dutch Republic is rich. Trading ships coming in from everywhere. A new merchant class with money and not quite enough places to put it. And into that world comes a flower nobody in Europe had ever really seen before. The tulip, imported from the Ottoman Empire, rare, strange, and strikingly beautiful. The rarest bulbs, the ones with broken flame-like petal patterns, became status symbols. And status symbols, once people start competing over them, don't stay flowers for long. Here's where it turns into something else. Traders started buying and selling not the bulbs themselves, but contracts, promises to buy a bulb at a set price, months in the future, before it had even flowered. The Dutch called it wind handle, wind trade. You weren't trading a flower anymore. You were trading a promise about a flower's future price, and promises are a lot easier to get excited about than dirt and a root. And once you're trading a promise instead of a thing, the price stops being about the thing at all. It becomes about what the next person will pay you for your promise, which works right up until the next person doesn't show up. Now, I have to be straight with you here because this is where the popular version of this story gets a little ahead of itself. You've probably heard that a single bulb sold for the price of a house on a canal, and there's truth buried in that. But modern economic historians have gone back through the actual sale records and found the mania was real, but smaller and messier than the legend. Fewer people were ruined than the story likes to claim. The lesson doesn't need the exaggeration. The real version is dramatic enough on its own. In February of 1637, at a routine bulb auction in Harlem, buyers simply didn't show up. No crash announcement, no single villain, just the next person in the chain didn't appear, and the whole promise collapsed backward through everyone holding one. Why does this keep happening? Not just with flowers 400 years ago, but with .com stocks and crypto tokens and every other. This time it's genuinely different asset since. Because a good story's more contagious than a good spreadsheet. Nobody lined up at that Harlem auction because they'd run the numbers on tulip cultivation yields. They lined up because everyone around them was getting rich off a story, and the story was more persuasive than the math. That's the real pattern, and it's the same one from last episode, just wearing a different coat. The herd doesn't move on facts. It moves on a story that feels true, told by enough people, loud enough, for long enough. The flower was never really the asset. The story was the asset. The flower was just what the story happened to be about that decade. Here's the question worth asking. The next time something feels like it can only go up, am I holding this because of what it actually does, or because of the story everyone's currently telling about what it will be worth? If you can't separate those two answers, you're not an investor in that moment. You're a character in someone else's story. Every bubble in this history has its own flower. The trick was never spotting the flower after it wilted. It's noticing while everyone's still buying that it was only ever a flower. Slow is a strategy. Panic never is. If you want the next case study the moment it's up, subscribe. and the full-source breakdown on the historians' debate over Tulip Mania's real scale is in this week's newsletter, linked below.